If there is one thing, well, actually there's multiple things I love in books, but I'm specifically going to be talking about one example of things that I like in books, or that I love in books I should say, is atmosphere. Love atmosphere. So the books on this list are books that I feel have the most atmospheric, immersive worlds that I have ever read from yet, where you can either get lost or immerse yourself completely in the world, or if you can visually see the world from the pages that you read, so like the pages come to life basically. I will give a quick little brief synopsis into each book or each series, and the more I read, the more books, the more series I read, the more this list will expand. So for the time being, these are the ones that I have read so far that I feel have been the most atmospheric worlds I have ever read from. So the first book, or the first series I should say, that I'm going to be talking about is the A Song of Ice and Fire series. I do have the fifth one, and this is like my favorite one out of the series. I do have the first one, but they're like under the rest of the series, and I don't want to have to like take it out, so I'm holding up this one because this is my favorite one. So, A Song of Ice and Fire. The series as a whole is basically, it starts off as like a murder mystery that Ned Stark has to investigate kind of thing. Well, actually, Ned Stark was appointed by his best friend Robert Baratheon to be the hand of the king because Robert Baratheon is the king in Westeros. And he comes upon this murder of his friend, and he has to try and solve the mystery of this murder, which then quickly becomes a race to take over the Iron Throne and to rule Westeros, basically. Obviously, based on the popular TV show Game of Thrones. And this is one of the most well-realized, well-fleshed-out worlds of a series I have ever read from so far. Everything in this world felt realistic, from the cultures, the race, the politics. And having recently reread the series, it still blows my mind. I'm probably being a little bit generous of me putting this on when I know there's probably others that are better, but because this has a show attached to it, it does help with the visualization. So I'm probably being a little bit generous in that aspect, but I can say if you take the TV show out of it, it stands on its own 2 feet, no problem whatsoever. And each kingdom have their own policies, their own laws, their own kind of government, their own political system, I guess you could say. And it's just fascinating. It's absolutely incredible. The landscape, the weather event is also something that is completely mind-blowing as well. Keep me the hell away from Castle Black, because I don't do so well with the cold, and the amount of times they get like snowstorms, and especially like beyond the wall, like north of the wall, where it's just winter 24/7, no thank you. And also another thing that is really good and that sets this world, well, it doesn't set it apart from other worlds, but that makes it more realistic, I guess you could say, that you could get lost in, is the food. Oh my god, I love the food that is in here. Like from what the poor people eat, which is not really a lot, and to what the prisoners get fed, and to what royalty eat as well. Royalty eat like pigs. Like, they eat such good, delicious food. When I hold up this next series, I do not think people will be surprised to see it on this list. And that is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And probably The Hobbit as well. How do I hold this? This is very awkward to hold. Oh, there you go. So, yeah. I mainly remember The Lord of the Rings. I remember some of The Hobbit. Yeah, I'm just going to be specifically talking about Lord of the Rings because that is one of the most popular books. So yeah, anyway. One of the best world building I have ever seen in a book series so far. Again, like I said with A Song of Ice and Fire. The vividness, the way things are written descriptively, is you feel like you're there. You really truly do. From the Shire to Rivendell to Mordor, one of the best Just one of the best in terms of atmosphere, immersion, world building, just that you can actually see it. Like, you can see it dancing off the pages and see it within the world. The adaptation was also incredible as well. I highly recommend it. I don't have too much else to say about it because I do want to give this a reread. When did I read this? Was it last year or the year before? I think it might have been the year before, but I want to read more fantasy books before I get back into rereading The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit as well, so then I can then read like the Silmarillion and the other books that J.R.R. Tolkien has released. And also in a similar vein to the A Song of Ice and Fire series, the cultures and the societies and the races as well of people in this world is fantastic as well. It's definitely a classic for a reason. Okay, we're getting into the standalones now. So this is one of the shortest books on this list. Like, you will not... Okay, how many pages is it? 58, just under 60 pages. And that is How the Marquee Got His Coat Back by Neil Gaiman. This is my first and only Neil Gaiman book I have read. I have read, no, sorry, I have not read, but I do have Good Omens and American Gods. Oh, I forgot to tell you what The Lord of the Rings was about. I think everyone knows what The Lord of the Rings is about. Ugh. Okay, Lord of the Rings is about a hobbit named Frodo. He comes in possession of the ring that his uncle had. I think Bilbo was his uncle. And Gandalf has given him the task of... Oh my gosh. Gandalf has given him the task to destroy the ring. The ring is... Oh my gosh, really? I read this book. Anyway, I think everyone knows about what Lord of the Rings is. If not, I'm not doing a good job at explaining what it's about. Well, I know Frodo is in possession of the ring, which his uncle Bilbo was in possession of. Gandalf has given him the task of destroying the ring, so they go on this journey to do that. That's basically what the story is. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, I can't believe I forgot about that. Anyway, How the Marquee Got His Coat Back, one of the shortest books I have ever read. The coat, it was elegant, it was beautiful, it was so close that he could have reached out and touched it, and it was unquestionably his. That's basically what the book is about this man who is getting his coat back. Well, the Marquis who is getting his coat back. For such a short book, the atmosphere and the immersiveness I felt within this book was so incredible. When I finished reading this book, it took me a moment to realize where I was. I was so invested in this world. And it took me a minute to realize, oh, I'm back on Earth, I'm in my study, and I'm walking around like a dodo bird thinking, holy shit, this book was awesome. Like, that was how immersive it was. I felt like I was in the world. And being such a short book, Neil Gaiman has done an incredible job at creating an immersive, atmospheric world. And for putting so much effort and world building into such a short book, that is a talent to be admired. The next standalone I have on this list is The Deep by Nick Cutter. This is a book I read a few years ago. I still remember it pretty good. So it's basically about... I say the word basically a lot, don't I? Oopsies, I apologize about that. So, The Deep is about a virus that takes over the world called the Gets. And the Gets is basically like... See? Basically again. So you forget where you put your phone, you forget where you put your keys, you forget how to drive, and then the more you deteriorate from you getting the virus, you forget everything basically. So it starts off with something small, like I said, with the phone, where you put it, where you put your keys. Then it gets into you forgetting how to drive, how to cook. And then it gets into you forgetting how to be a human. And it was really good. It's a horror as well. The best way I can describe this book is The Thing Meets the Abyss. That's how I see it as. And since most of this book, like a good portion, a good majority of this book takes place in an underwater laboratory because scientists believe that they have found something at the bottom of the ocean, like way deep, deep, deep down, that they think will, oh, Maggie, that they think will cure the gets. Just give me a moment, my dog is being a pain in the ass. Okay, I'm back. So, like I was saying, there are scientists that believe that they have found the cure to the gets, like way deep down underwater, like in the far depths, in the far reaches underwater. And since most of this book does take place under the water, you do get flashbacks to the past where you get to see the lives of the scientists that I can remember. I'll need to do a reread of it. Like, you get to see the scientists' life, like before they had to go and find a cure for the gets. And like I'm trying to say, since the majority of this book takes place underwater, like in an underwater laboratory, the feeling is quite claustrophobic. And like I said, I most likely will want to, or it's actually more of a want to reread this book, but I do remember feeling quite tense. There being a feeling of eeriness or stillness while reading this book. I actually felt like I was under the water. This is the author that also wrote the book called The Trip, which I will be reading in October, just to give you a little bit of a sneak peek into what I'm going to be reading. Like, if you hear any sounds, which I'll try and fix up in editing, like a boom, 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 sound like a fan going, it's because I do have the fan going on at a higher speed so I can breathe, because I'm starting to suffocate and be a little bit hot. So if you hear anything, that's what that sound is. This is the last book I'm going to be talking about, and it is one I have recently read in the month of January of this year. That is Playing Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth. Records A School for Girls, so it takes place in two timelines. In 1902, in Brookhorn's School for Girls, Flo and Clara are students at the school. They are madly in love with each other and obsessed with the story of Mary McLean, which is a scandalous debut memoir by 19-year-old McLean, which is actually a real book. I love it when authors can bring a little bit of something from reality into like a work of fiction. I just really enjoyed that. So a few months later, Flo and Clara are found dead by a wasp attack, and within 5 years of that happening, and the book, the Mary McLean book, is found with the bodies. And within 5 years, the school is closed. Not before 3 more people die on the property, each in a troubling way. And then over the years, Brookhorns opens so that a film crew can come and film the story behind Brookhorns and the mysteriousness and the murders at Brookhorns. As past and present become grimly entangled, it's soon impossible to tell quite where the curse leaves off and Hollywood begins. So I loved this book so much. As I said, it takes place in two timelines. One in the past, which is like the historical-ish aspect of it, where the murders have taken place, and also the second one in the present day where the film is being made about the murders at Brookhorns. The most atmospheric part of the book is in the past, when the murders are being taken place, and the film of the story behind the murders at Brookhorn School for Girls in the present day. Mainly because that is where a lot of the horror elements in this book are. So the horror elements were actually quite atmospheric. There are some parts that are not so atmospheric, like when we get to see a little bit of the pre-production of the film, but it was still interesting to read from. I just remember there being really weird, creepy, mysterious things happening, particularly with the wasps, and also with, oh my god, what was it? Like the fields, like the grounds on Brookhorns where the school is. So most of the atmosphere does take place in the past, when we get alternating chapters from the past in 1902 where the murders happened, as well as when the filming happens for the movie of the story behind the murders at Brookhorn's School for Girls, is basically what I'm trying to say. And let me see if I can get this all on shot, hey? How about I just put it in front of my face? These are all the books that I think have the most atmospheric worlds, or have the most immersive atmosphere, like atmospheric writing in the books. As well as The Deep, which I unhauled because I thought I wasn't going to be wanting to reread it again, but after me talking about it, I think I want to reread it again. Those are the books. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope you have found some good recommendations here. Make sure you leave a like, make sure you leave a comment as well. Have you read any of these books? Do you agree with what I have said about these books? And do you think you could you add more to it as well? And also, what other books do you think have the best atmosphere? Let me know down below as well. I will see you in the next video. Bye!